This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Mathew Pezon. What's going on, Matt?
Brian, good to see you.
Hey, so Matt, you're in the middle state, right? I'm in Pennsylvania on the west side. You're in the middle of the state, right?
Yeah, middle and trending east as well. Yep, that's right.
That's cool. So give me a little background and give everybody a little background on what you do.
Yeah, so I am a recovering engineer. I went to engineering school, then I went to business school, and I kind of took a more, academic route. I was kind of doing the W-2 thing, and I bought my first property in 2014. I actually found real estate outside of the country in Spain during my master's, and it just made so much sense to me, and I knew I wanted to get into it. So when I got back to the States, I started buying, and that was 2014. The market has helped a lot, and recently, over the last couple months, I just quit my full-time job, and I'm all in on real estate.
Nice. Did you say you're a recovering engineer?
I am a recovering engineer. That's right. And I heard that one time. I forget who I should attribute that to, but it's the analysis paralysis and figure it all out first. And I really had to rewire how I was thinking to be an entrepreneur and really jump in and figure stuff out versus having the answer up front.
Yeah. Did you ever do a predictive index?
You know, I haven't just yet. I've done like Myers-Briggs and the other ones, but I haven't done PI. I will after this. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll let you know. I'll text you after. Yeah.
Okay, so 2014, you got into how old are you? You're pretty young, right?
I'm 35.
Okay, so you got into real estate, what, when you were 20, 25, 26?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Nice. Okay. And so you were going to school in overseas, and how'd you get into real estate over there?
Yeah, so I when I graduated, it was from college locally here in the Lehigh Valley. It was the kind of the depths of the GFC, and jobs were hard to come by. So I did 3 years of like an engineering rotational program at a big multinational corporation, and then I said, look, I want to go back to business school. I always knew I loved Spain. I studied there as an undergrad. I did a major in it in Spanish, and so I went back over there. I did business school, and in one of the modules about debt, we were studying equities and stock valuations and all this stuff, you know, P/E ratios, all the typical curriculum. And I kind of got it, but the debt really made sense to me and how you could finance properties and leverage. I didn't understand options and stuff like that for leverage on like the equity side, but I really understood debt. And it opened up my eyes to the leverage rate of return that I could get in real estate. And I knew once I got back to the States in 2014, I wanted to buy. I knew that I was a decent marketer. I'd studied it. I knew that I could find these deals in my hometown, and I just started ripping back then.
That's cool. Because Allentown, what's your population up there? That's not like a huge city. I mean, it's decent, but
it's the third largest city in Pennsylvania, distant behind Philly and Pittsburgh. I think it's like 120,000 people there. The Lehigh Valley in total is around 600,000. Not huge, but not, super remote either.
All right, cool. So you got into real estate. What was the first deal like? Was that the Burr method, or what was the first one like?
Yeah, it was a single family house. It was a distressed landlord, actually through a realtor back when you could find good deals through realtors. Maybe we'll be able to soon. Who knows? But it was a single family home rented for $975. I think I bought it for like $50,000 or something. Put like 2 or 3 into it, and then refinanced it. And pulled out my capital and did it again. And to pay for the down payment, I refinanced my car. I took on a personal loan. So I started with literally nothing. I had no money. I had paid off all my student loans in 3 years. So when I got back from my master's, I was looking for cash to put down. So I refied my car and did some other stuff. And I was able to get into that first property.
Nice. So your first one, what'd you have to do? Come up with the 20%, finance it, fix it up, and then refi out of it?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I had to figure out how to get like $20K. So I had my car. I think I got like $12K out of that. I took a personal loan for $10K, and then I think I borrowed some from my 401K. I think I had like $30,000 in it at the time. And so I just figured it out.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's the same exact way. I didn't borrow for my car though, but same way I got it. I do the buy and hold also. And same way, the first couple deals, I had to put the 20% down and finance it. Until you make enough capital to just buy them cash. Do you buy cash now, or do you still do the 20%, or what do you do?
Yeah, a lot of times I'm buying them in cash just because the sellers want to sell fast. But I use lines of credit now. I have a lot of business lines of credit that I use in addition to my own cash. And then I use like some of the big lenders, national lenders that only require maybe 10% down if you qualify to kind of scale. If I bought like 3 recently or whatever, and I want to get leverage. So those are my big 3 ways: just in cash, lines of credit, or through like a Kiavi or a company like that for where you put down 10% and they finance the rest, including repairs.
That's cool. Do you guys have well, I know they're in Pennsylvania. You ever dealt with S&T Bank?
No, not yet.
Yeah, you should check them out. They're the best one that I've found around here so far. So I can turn around I buy them cash, but I can turn them around super fast with S&T, and they just do they do the 20-year commercial loans, but they seem to be the easiest ones, and they'll do up to, I think they're still doing 80%.
Nice. Okay, good. I'll check them out. I've mostly been dealing with smaller local banks, just because their rates have. I mean, they were locking in for, gosh, I mean, initially when I started, 15 years they were locking the rate, but then they talked me back to 7 years, and now they're all doing 5. But the local banks have been really good to work with. But I'll check out.
Yeah,
I'll check them out. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a local one in Pittsburgh. I think they do it up there because I checked a lot of banks, and they were just easy to work with. And I like that I can turn around, and they don't have a seasoning period either.
Oh yeah,
so you can buy a property and always get out next month.
Yeah, people always get stuck on that. Especially with the local banks, they say, "Well, what was the purchase price?" and we'll only lend to 80% of your all-in cost or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but now I have a 35 LTV loan. What do you want me to do with that?
Right. Yeah.
Or whatever, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you went to college, you come back, you bought your first property. What happened next?
Yeah, so
you just keep
next
accumulate or what?
Yeah, I was double hatting for like 8 years. I mean, I was ducking into conference rooms. I was taking sellers calls, and could you call me back at 2? Oh, I got to juggle a meeting. So I was double hatting for like a long time, from 2014 till the end of 2022. And I was doing both, and I was a manager too. Like I had a team. I had 8 direct reports and stuff, and so I got married in there. Like it was nuts, man. I mean, COVID helped me kind of elongate it and stayed on the W-2 payroll longer, which really helped get the BRRRR financing and kind of cash out at the end, because the banks just love the W-2. But if it weren't for COVID, if I had to be in the office for that extra 2.5 years, I don't think I could have done it. It was just becoming too much. It's just too many units, too many refis, too many sellers, too many tenants, too much. So
yeah. At what point? When did you know? It's like, I just got to cut.
Yes, my wife and I just bought a new house in August of last year that we wanted to just close on that because the W-2 earnings helped to get a good loan, and I just said, look, after that I gotta stop. We're well north of 75 units at that point, 100 units, and I just needed to focus on the business. And we had reserves. I mean, we had over a year of reserves. Like if every tenant stopped paying, we'd be fine. Like we're very conservative with our numbers and making sure we have enough liquidity so that if anything went wrong, we'd be fine. And that's what I knew. It was 1, I couldn't stand it anymore. 2, we had the cash, and 3, we had the assets. So then it was time to focus on it full time.
Yeah, and that's cool, because I know a lot of people, when making the change, I know one guy, he's making like 5 times as much money on real estate than he is in his job, but he still doesn't leave. Change is hard. Like leave, you know what I mean, going on your own. A lot of people deal with that. They're thinking about it like it just switching it and losing its stability. It's a tough decision for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, and it really is, and it's a change of mentality, and even for myself, I'm guilty. That's why I said recovering engineer at the beginning of this, because it's I probably held on to it too long too, and just I allowed some limiting beliefs that, oh well, if I don't have this job, I can't get money, or the banks won't like my application. But then it's true, I did that same math. Well, how much more am I making in real estate compared to my W-2? And just looking at the properties I sold last year, it was like 8 times more. Because I sold properties to buy new properties. It's like, and I realized it's time, it was time. So,
yeah, but yeah. Yeah. And I kind of like how you did it. Like a lot of people just jump. They're like, hey, I'm getting into real estate. I'm quitting my job and I'm going right at it.
Yeah.
Well, you did, at least you got into it, learned the business, were stable, built up the reserves, and then jump ship.
Yeah. Well, people do their third deal and they think, oh, they see the potential, but then they get denied for loans. And I had a couple of banker mentors starting out that really said, hey, Matt, don't do that. You have a long career ahead of you. Don't jump too soon. It'll stunt your growth. It's a medium to long-term game. Don't jump too soon just because you want to do another deal or two a year. Really, really focus on your job, because then you can refinance. And I had a lot of great mentors in the banking business that helped a lot. So they kept me in my job.
Now,
so,
yes. So now your business now is primarily buy and hold, right? Like, are you really a wholesaler or flipping much, or is it just you're buying to keep?
I've never wholesaled. I think I tried to flip back in 2016. I lost $5,000. It was terrible. And a year of my life, it was awful, but I learned a lot of lessons. I occasionally, if there's a property that we slice and dice, we look every single way, it won't make sense as a rental, we might turn around and sell it if it's a good deal. But that's not really what we're looking to do. We don't really look to flip. Our differentiator at my company is, look, we'll give you the speed, we'll give you the cash offer that all the other wholesalers and flippers do, except for the fact that we're actually invested in the community and we actually care, and we're in the community, and we'll make a better cash offer than they will, because there's no middleman needing to make a profit. We're the end buyer. So cut out all the middle people, we'll buy the property, and we'll give you the best offer, because no one else has to make flip money or wholesale money, right? So that's really our value here in the Lehigh Valley.
Gotcha. What numbers, when you're looking at a deal, what numbers are you looking at to see if it makes sense or doesn't make sense?
Yeah. So great question. For what we look to do, and we lay this all out for the sellers, is we say, look, here's what we believe the property is going to appraise for. Here's where we believe all the repairs are. Let us know if you agree or disagree. Here's what we're seeing. And here's what our equity buffer is going to be. Usually we like it to be about 20% to be worth our time to do all the repairs and chase after the contractors when they don't do the work, and do all the paperwork with the banks and stuff. And also because they don't pay commissions to a realtor. So that's the sweet spot we found, where if we're all in for 80% of what a property could appraise for when it's all done, that's generally the best cash offer that people here would get, because there's no margin left for a flipper or wholesaler. But we do all the work and make the offer direct. So that's what I'm tending to look at. Like, how can I be all in my costs for 20% below what some appraiser could, say, here's what the value is, right? Even though they're kind of, I don't know. I haven't been agreeing with the appraisers recently on a lot of stuff, but that's how we look at it.
Okay. Now that makes sense too, because that's a pretty good offer too, because most people are trying to be at 70%.
Yeah.
So if you go into 80%, you're going to kind of cut the competition out. So here in Pittsburgh, say I get a property for 100, put 30 into it. It might appraise at 230, but we're still only getting like $1,400 a month rent.
Oh my gosh.
How's the market where you are? Do the rents fall? What's that?
No, I just said you would have to sell then. I mean, you could never make any money renting it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Do the rents, like, what's the rental market where you are? Do they hold to the appraised value, like 1.5% of what it's worth, or how are they up there?
Yeah, out here in the Lehigh Valley, it's about 1%. If you're all into a property, like let's say you buy a single family for 100, you put 25 into it, it might appraise for 160. But you could rent it for 1550, 1595 if it's done really well. So it's a lot better numbers as a rental. You could actually retain the property as a rental, versus out where you are, there's too much equity. You'd never make a return on equity with those numbers. Yep.
Right. Yeah. And now, is there a specific cash flow spread you're looking for in your deals?
Just that it's cash flow positive. I mean, I try to stay above $150 a door after we do all our CapEx and stuff. But I mean, really, I'm looking for a minimum 21% IRR on each deal. I take them out, into the future, look at the CapEx and what I'll sell it for, and subtract all the selling costs. And I have a pretty advanced model that does all that. So I mean, the cash flow is important, but if you're making $150 and you have no money in the deal, your return is infinite, and it doesn't matter if I'm making 150 or 125 or 100. Like, I wasn't into the deal for any money. So as long as it's cash flow positive and I meet the equity requirement going into the deal and my IRR is 21% or more, I'm okay. I'll do it.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, because a lot of times on the buy and hold strategy, you don't need that. You want to cover your expenses, obviously, but you don't need a ton of cash flow because you're kind of pushing money to the future.
Well, that's right. And also, there was an article that came out last month here locally. There's another 100,000 people that are expected to move to this area from the expensive New York and New Jersey's that are that we border. I'm 6 miles from New Jersey right now. And so those markets are so expensive. People are going to keep coming out to this area. I just don't see a slowdown of growth, and you can't build this product. The replacement cost is 60% more than the cost of the house. So there's limited supply, there's more demand. So I'm not overly concerned about, well, is it going to cash flow? Oh, it's going to cash flow $98. I need $100 or I'm not going to do it. Like, I just don't take that short-term approach.
Right. How about property management? Do you do that in-house?
No. That's something I do not want to do. Maybe someday, but I doubt it. I work with a great property manager here locally, and I've went through, 5 or 6 of them to find a good one. Which had its own heartburn, but it's a third-party manager. They charge a fee, and they do repairs. They have a full in-house staff. They do a really good job.
All right, so what do you recommend? Because I know a lot of investors I talk to try to go with the cheapest guy with the lowest rates and all that kind of stuff. What have you experienced?
So back to my engineering days, what's your total cost? It's not just what you pay monthly, but what's your total cost of management, right? So I did the same thing, and then I started seeing after a couple of years, the tenants move out every 2 years with this manager versus every 5 years with that manager. Well, now I have a turn cost, I have a tenant finder fee, and vacancy, and it just kills your rate of return. It just destroys it, all because you wanted 7% instead of 9%. It's just silliness.
Yeah.
And I can only say that I'm saying that to my former self because I used to think that way. Now I don't care. My manager marks up materials. They charge a rate that's a little bit above market rate for labor, and I'm fine with it because I build it into the deal on the front end, but then I know they're paying above average wages, so the guys will stay, they'll show up, and they can maintain all the parts. They have a warehouse, and there's a cost associated with that, and I'll pay it. I don't care about paying a little bit extra because work orders will get done, which means tenants stay.
Right. Yeah. What did you find when you were looking? Did you find any tips that people, if they're looking to shop property managers, how to tell the ones that are better versus the ones to maybe stay clear of?
Oh yeah. Ask them their numbers. So, what's your annual turnover rate? So basically how many tenants leave every year versus how many stay? What's your economic occupancy at this moment? If they can answer that question, and most of them can't, they're not watching their numbers like they should. So managers that are sophisticated enough, now I happen to be a numbers guy and maybe that's not everyone's thing, but if the manager isn't on top of how they are turning units and are tenants staying or are they not staying, then they're not watching what's most important for you as the investor.
Yeah,
so that's what I found.
And you're right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, that turnover rate is so huge because I noticed some property managers just want to turn it over because they get that extra month fee versus some other ones, they just have a monthly lease renewal, which you kind of think it's like the guy's just renewing their lease. Why would I want to pay you a fee? But It's like $250 and the people stay there.
Right.
Right. So it just makes so much more sense, especially if you're getting a bump on rent every year too, like $50 rent, you pay them their fee. People stay for 4 or 5 years. You're right. It's big time difference on your return.
Well, the biggest costs are the vacancy cost, the finder's fee, and the turnover cost. So you really the questions that you ask the manager really need to be around those things, because at the end of the day, a 2% markup here or a lease renewal there or a fee for a filing fee for non-payment, sure, those things are, they add up, but they're not the biggest cost. And people forget all about what is the most expensive thing in management. It's vacancy, turnover, and repairs. So at the turnover, so you really need to be asking about those things. I hear it all the time. These managers will start talking to me, oh, I'm cheaper because of X, Y, and Z, or they charge this fee and I don't. And it's just they're not thinking about the right thing. That's not the most expensive thing for the investor.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, anyone listening, pay attention to that, because it's a big part of owning rentals. It's the guy who's answering the phone and collecting the rent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so true. And one other thing that I'll say to measure the sophistication of an operator is, are they willing to pay your taxes and insurance bills? Because if they're not, because they say, well, we don't want anything to happen just in case, that means they're not sophisticated. That means they're setting all those bills in a stack and maybe multiple people have access. And what happens if we lose them? They're just not organized. So if they're not organized enough to pay your tax bills and your insurance bills, and have one P&L statement at the end of the year with all of your costs, inclusive of your mortgage, I might add, if you can get them to do it, that's the sign that your manager is organized and they can handle the books.
Yeah, it's a good point too, because at the end of the year, it is huge just giving one print off to your CPA versus grabbing all these different things.
Yeah. Yep. And if the manager is sophisticated with software to do that, they're likely a good manager.
Yeah, cool. All right, we're almost out of time. What do you think, Matt? Anything else we missed we should talk about?
Oh man, good question. I mean, do you want to talk about marketing? You want to talk about leads? I know that's your specialty.
Oh yeah, well, I know we can talk about leads. What do you see and how are you getting deals out your way? Like, what are you finding the best return?
So, I mean, I might be old school, but a good old fashioned letter. I mean, I've been ripping letters for, I started handwriting them and me and my wife, and that was back in like 2015, 2016. And then we started getting a printer and sending them out. I mean, I still have good, I'm at like $5,000 a deal right now in direct mail, actually a little under, and I haven't seen it trend up too much. I've heard in other markets it has, but good old-fashioned letters and the outbound stuff has been great. I'm transitioning more to inbound now, as we were talking before. But I still think there's the outbound channel is, a lot of people are focusing on the SEO stuff, the PPC stuff. That's great, but don't forget about the outbound stuff. I've had good success with it.
Yeah. Now on the mailers you're sending, are you sending yellow letters or what type of piece are you mailing?
Yeah, it's company branded, and it looks like it's handwritten. It has a QR code to our website, and so it's not like your typical kind of vague yellow letter. It does come from our company, and it's actually through our CRM, so it's kind of all integrated, which is saving me a lot of time because I used to coordinate with like 3 different VAs around the U.S. They'd ship the letters back, so we'd have a local stamp, and I got away from all that. It's too much work.
That's cool. What? So you saying your CRM you can mail from there?
Yeah. So it's Left Main is what I use. I think there are others that might do it, but they actually have
Stephanie Better's over there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Stephanie's great. Entertaining. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're saying, yeah, because that's through Salesforce. You can integrate that and have mailers directly go out and then tie back with the actual contact.
Oh yeah, and the campaign too. So I could see, is this person behind on their taxes, their mortgage, and they're a landlord, or maybe their water was shut off, they're behind on their taxes. I can see that when they call. So that's great, and we could just track our marketing costs. We could track our cost per lead for each of these lead sources, and it's just great. I mean, I'm not like a coder at all. Like I'm not super techie like that, but I do like having the visibility to, like, okay, I'm spending all this money. What am I getting for it? And how efficient is this capital?
Right. And you're right, too. That could be the difference of getting a deal or not. Whenever someone calls you, if you have a tip-off, what kind of problems they're dealing with?
Oh, yeah. And, you don't come out and say, like, oh, I know your water was shut off. But you just ask them some questions. And, oh, I see you're from out of the area just based on the address. How's it going? And then sometimes it comes up, but sometimes it doesn't. But at least before I had a CRM, I didn't know, like the person would call and then I'd have to manually search through, well, what list were they on? I'm checking 15 spreadsheets and looking for this person. And then you hang up the call and you don't even get a chance to ask the question you needed to ask. And you lost that opportunity live. So.
Yeah, and you're right. Like someone is divorced, going through divorce is different than the pre-foreclosure.
Yeah, or someone that they have a credit card judgment against them, but they own a property. Like all these different scenarios, or it's a relative because it's a probate situation. Like you need a little bit of context. I never had that until working with Left Main, which is, I mean, I love Left Main. It's great. There's probably other CRMs that are just as good, but I don't think so personally.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about them. On your who you're mailing to, are you list stacking or what are you doing there?
So I have VAs that are pulling all the public records, and then we're mailing to the filings that we see. It could be Uncle Sam filed a lien against someone, and now my VA found that they have a property, or it could be the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue, or it could be a credit card company, or they're going through a divorce. Like, all this stuff is public information. It is a pain to get. It's so tedious and hard. It's really hard, and there's not like an easy place to get it. And even title companies struggle with this stuff. Like, that's why title insurance exists, because this stuff gets missed. Like, it's hard. But I've grinded through and written up all these processes and search instructions, and now my VAs do it, but it's been a grind to figure all that out. And each website has I spent like 3 hours one time trying to figure out, why can't I search for this thing? And it's because I put in like an asterisk instead of like an and sign or something stupid for like to search for a different type of filing. Like, it just makes you want to go crazy. So
yeah, that's what I hear too. It's tough
with searches.
Yeah, because you're right. All the you can buy lists, but all the information is public. You just gotta go dig, because every website's old school, different formats, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, and I haven't to be fair, I haven't bought like a list that says, okay, show me the pre-foreclosures and then match that up against the list that I pull. I just know that, hey, it's in the public record. That's where we're going to get it. I haven't looked at the costs. I mean, maybe it's cheaper to do it that way. I just haven't looked at it.
Hey, if it's working for you, why change, right?
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But with left-leaning data, I should be able to find out, right? I could just test it, split test it. So
it is true. And yeah, and then before we quit talking about marketing, like everything, like what I see is, I see all the investors, they get shiny object syndrome. Like I'd say probably almost every type of marketing will work if done consistently, like mailers, SMS, digital. So anyone out there listening, like, you don't have to keep hopping. Just make sure you do things at least for like a 6-month spread.
Oh yeah, that's so true. I couldn't emphasize that enough. We were just talking before this call that I was buying leads, like PPC leads, and I didn't put in enough time to really let it season. Now, there were reasons for that, because I was onboarding like 3 people at once, and I didn't have as much process built out as I would have liked, so I stopped it. But I kind of felt the same, oh, this isn't working. When I look back, it's like, oh, well, I only did it for 2 months, and I barely spent any money, and I only got a few leads. Like, I didn't really vet it. So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so all the different types. 'Cause I see a lot of, especially the newer guys in the space, they do something, and then that doesn't work, and they keep bouncing, which, if you keep bouncing, you're never going to get a feel. Like, if you're going to drive for dollars and do that for a long time. Or if you're going to, like, you're either trading sweat or money to get deals.
Yes.
Like, you can either do it yourself, or like you're kind of doing both. You're kind of sweating for the list, but then sending the mailers.
Exactly. And then we have the data, and we just keep resending. But yeah, that's so true. We should rewind that. I mean, that's such a good point about marketing.
Yeah, cool. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, Matthew. We appreciate you.
Yeah, Brian, thanks so much for having me, and hopefully I could add value to your listeners.
Yeah, sure. Hey, and if anyone wants to reach out, like, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So I don't have a company on the side that I try to pitch or sell anything. I'd love to connect with anyone that's a listener. My website, which we can link in the show notes probably, and Facebook, social media, Instagram. Send a direct message, and I'll happily reach out. Any questions? Would love to connect with any investors who are doing big things.
Yeah, what's your website URL for anybody listening?
Oh, sure. It's pezonproperties.com.
Okay, so that's PEZON properties.com, right?
That's right. Yep.
Cool, man. Hey, what's your favorite book?
Oh, man, that's such a packed question. Right now, my favorite book right now is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Such a good book. I'm in the scaling and building processes and procedures and systems phase right now, with 4 direct employees full time and a few part time people. So having everyone organized and knowing what's going on, what the next process is, what the next order of things is so key. So that's my favorite book right now.
Yeah, nice. That's a good one too. You're right. Buying back. Yeah, processes are huge. Save you a lot of time. They're a pain to set up, but they save you a lot of time.
Yeah, and like that book, I think Dan makes it really attainable. Like, okay, so processes sound scary and this and that, but he gives you like step-by-step instructions. Like this, for example, when you're doing the task, just record yourself doing it because you're doing it anyway. And then you can just, then someone has like a Loom video or a Teams meeting recording, Zoom, whatever. You can give it to a virtual assistant who will do that work. They watch the video, make their own video, and then they make their own instruction set. So really, you're only doing the task once, and then you can check their step-by-step procedure to make sure they truly understood, because they're going to own that task.
Right.
So there's a lot more to it, but I found the book to be extremely helpful, and I'm implementing it right now. My executive assistant starts on Monday, actually. So
Nice.
It's real life value for me. Love that book.
Good stuff, man. Hey, well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, thanks, man. Hey, everyone listening, thanks for listening. Get out there, crush it, close some deals. We'll see you next time.